Kira watched from her observation post as the human settlement expanded across the valley. She had been studying the peculiar bipeds for 3 cycles now. Her mission was simple: observe and report back to the High Council about these newcomers, to the galactic community. Humans fascinated her. Their bodies were so fragile compared to her own sturdy exoskeleton. Yet they accomplished feats that impressed even the oldest members of her species. They built with determination, adapted quickly, and showed remarkable resilience when faced with challenges. The Council considered humans dangerous, unpredictable, primitive. But Kira saw something else in them, something her people had lost long ago. She adjusted her camouflage field and moved closer, to the settlement perimeter. The evening air carried the scent of cooked food and the sound of laughter. Kira had learned that humans gathered together at the end of their work cycle to share meals and stories, a practice her solitary species had abandoned millennia ago. Her attention fixed on one human in particular. Susan worked in the agricultural dome. Kira had observed her developing new plant hybrids that could thrive in this planet's harsh soil. The human showed remarkable patience and intuition, qualities that Kira admired today. Kira would make first contact. Her superiors would be furious. But after years of observation, she had concluded that peaceful communication was possible, necessary. Even with humans expanding so rapidly throughout the sector, isolation was no longer an option. Kira disabled her camouflage field and stepped into the clearing where Susan worked alone. The human gasped, dropping her tools as she noticed the 7-foot-tall insectoid creature with iridescent, blue-green carapace and 4 upper limbs. Susan recovered quickly, showing that adaptability Kira had come to expect from humans. "Hello," she said. Her voice surprisingly steady. Kira activated her translation device. "Greetings, human Susan. I am Kira, observer, from the Zathri Collective." Susan stared wide-eyed. "How do you know my name? I've been watching your settlement, studying your kind." Kira replied, noticing how the human's skin flushed with color. Susan crossed her arms. "You mean spying on us?" Kira clicked, her mandibles in what her species recognized as embarrassment. "Yes, though we prefer the term scientific observation." To Kira's surprise, Susan laughed. "You traveled across space to watch us garden and build houses." The humor caught Kira off guard. Her people rarely laughed. "My superiors believe humans are dangerous. They fear your rapid expansion, your unpredictability. But I see something different." Susan approached cautiously, examining Kira's alien features. "And what do you see?" "Potential," Kira said, simply. "Your species solves problems differently than mine. You cooperate in ways we have forgotten. You feel emotions strongly, which we once considered weakness. But now I understand is strength." Their conversation lasted until the moons rose above. The settlement. Kira explained about the collective, the dozens of spacefaring species that formed the galactic community. Susan shared stories about Earth-human history and their dreams of peaceful contact with alien life. When Kira's communicator chimed, she knew her absence had been noticed. The penalty for unauthorized contact with humans would be severe, but she no longer cared about protocol. "I must return to my ship, Susan, but I would like to continue our exchange of knowledge." Susan nodded, eagerly. "Same time tomorrow." Over the following weeks, their meetings continued. Kira shared advanced farming techniques while Susan taught her about human music, art, and literature, concepts alien to Kira's people who valued function over beauty. When Kira's commander finally tracked her down, he was livid. Unauthorized contact with primitives was a serious offense. The commander ordered immediate withdrawal and recommended Kira face disciplinary action, but Kira refused to leave. "I believe an alliance with humans would benefit the collective. They solve problems we cannot. Their creativity offers new perspectives." The commander dismissed her claims. "Humans are unpredictable, dangerous. We observe, we do not engage. This is our way." Kira stood her ground. "Then perhaps our way is wrong. We have stagnated, Commander. While humans thrive through cooperation and emotional connection, we once valued these things too." The commander narrowed his compound eyes. "You have been contaminated by human thinking. Kira, this is why we maintain distance. Their chaotic nature infects even the most disciplined minds. Kira felt something stirring within her, something humans would call defiance. I request a direct audience with the council. Let them hear what I have learned. Let them meet Susan. The commander laughed harshly. The council will not waste time on the opinions of a field observer, especially one compromised by emotional attachment to her subjects. Kira stood taller, her exoskeleton shifting to a bright, challenging hue. Then I will go over your authority, Commander. The protocols allow for direct petition in extraordinary circumstances. The commander stared at her for a long moment. You would risk your career, your standing, your future for these humans. Not just for them, Kira replied. For us as well. Our civilization needs what humans offer. We have grown too rigid, too isolated. Our birth rates decline. Our art has vanished. Our innovation stagnates. We need their chaos, their emotion, their unpredictability. The commander turned away. Prepare your petition, I will transmit it, but know this. If the council rejects your appeal, you will face severe consequences. Kira returned to the settlement that evening to find Susan waiting at their usual meeting place. The human sensed something was wrong immediately. Her intuition, another trait. Kira's people had sacrificed for logical efficiency. They know about our meetings. Kira said. Susan nodded, unsurprised. And now you have to leave. Not yet. Kira explained her petition, her hope that the council would agree to formal contact. The risk she was taking. Susan listened intently, then asked, Why are you doing this? Risking everything for us? Kira considered the question. For 3 cycles I have observed your kind. I have seen your struggles, your triumphs, your connections, the way you support each other, celebrate together, mourn together. My people have none of this. We are efficient, productive, but we have lost something essential, something you humans possess in abundance. What? Susan asked. Kira struggled to find the right word. Joy, she finally said. We have forgotten. Joy. Susan reached out hesitantly, then placed her hand on Kira's forearm. The sensation was strange, but not unpleasant. Then we will have to remind you. That night, Kira transmitted her petition to the council. She included recordings of her conversations with Susan Data on human innovation, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. She argued that formal diplomatic relations would benefit both species. The response came faster than expected. The council was intrigued. The Zathri faced problems that logical solutions had failed to solve. Perhaps these emotional, unpredictable humans might offer new perspectives. The council would send representatives to evaluate her claims to meet these humans themselves, to determine if Kira was correct that what the Zathri had lost humans might help them rediscover. Susan organized the human settlement, preparing them for the arrival of the Zathri delegation. Some humans were fearful, others excited. Kira observed with fascination how they debated, argued, compromised, another strength of their chaotic nature. The council ship arrived 3 days later, descending from orbit in a display of light and power that left the human settlement in awe. 5 council members emerged tall, imposing their exoskeletons marked with the symbols of their rank and lineage. They surveyed the human settlement with compound eyes that missed nothing. Susan stepped forward as the designated Representative. Kira beside her. Welcome to New Hope Settlement, she said. We are honored by your presence. The lead council member regarded her silently, then spoke. We have come to evaluate Observer Kira's claims about your species, to determine if formal contact would benefit the collective. Susan smiled warmly. Then we welcome the opportunity to show you who we are. As the humans guided the Zathri delegation through their settlement, Kira felt a strange emotion, something like pride but mixed with anticipation. 2 worlds meeting for the first time. Perhaps the beginning of something extraordinary. The fate of 2 species now rested on what happened in the days ahead. The Zathri delegation moved through the human settlement with calculated precision. Their compound eyes missed nothing as they observed the daily routines of the colonists. Susan led the tour with Kira at her side, explaining the purpose of each structure and introducing key community members. Elder Zathrax, the head of the delegation, maintained a rigid posture, his exoskeleton gleaming in the sunlight. You claim these humans have qualities our species should emulate. Observer Kira, yet I see disorder, inefficiency, emotional decision-making. Kira nodded respectfully. Yes, Elder. These are the very qualities that give humans their strength. Their settlements may appear chaotic by our standards, but their adaptability allows them to thrive, where our rigid systems would fail. The delegation stopped at the agricultural dome where Susan explained their farming methods. We modified earth crops to survive in the local soil. She gestured to rows of vibrant plants. Some failed, but we learned. From those failures, improved our methods. Elder Zathrax clicked his mandibles. Our agricultural systems are perfectly optimized. Failure is eliminated through proper planning. Susan smiled gently. Sometimes the most important discoveries come from unexpected failures. From trying things that seem illogical at first, the youngest council member, Neelix, leaned forward, studying the plants with interest. These hybrids. You created them through intuitive experimentation rather than genetic modeling. Yes, Susan replied. We combine science with intuition. Sometimes we try combinations simply because they feel right. The concept seemed to puzzle the Zathri delegation. Their species had long ago replaced intuition with pure logic. The tour continued. Through the settlement, the medical facility where human doctors treated patients with both technology and compassion, the school where children learned through play, as well as structured education, the community center where humans gathered to share meals, music, art, and conversation. Throughout the day, Kira noticed something changing in the delegation's demeanor, subtle shifts in posture, color patterns in their exoskeletons. They were intrigued, especially Neelix, who asked dozens of questions about human emotions and social bonds. That evening, the settlement hosted a welcome feast for their visitors. Humans shared food, music, and stories. The Zathri observed with varying degrees of discomfort and fascination as humans laughed, danced, and expressed emotions openly. Kira sat beside Susan, watching her people struggle to comprehend the human celebration. They don't understand, she said quietly. The purpose of all this. Susan smiled. They will. It's just unfamiliar to them. Across the gathering, Elder Zathrax stood apart, analyzing the humans with scientific detachment. But Neelix had joined a group of children who were teaching him a simple game. His exoskeleton had shifted to a bright receptive blue, a color Kira had not seen in an adult Zathri for many cycles. The following morning, the delegation requested to observe humans working. The council members separated, each accompanying different colonists to their daily tasks. Elder Zathrax chose to observe the settlement's engineering. Team Neelix requested to visit the school. Kira accompanied Susan to the agricultural dome where they worked side by side, transplanting seedlings. Your council seems divided on us, Susan observed. Kira carefully placed a seedling in the soil. Yes, Elder. Zathrax represents the traditional view that emotion leads to chaos, that logical perfection is the only path. But Neelix and some others sense what I have come to understand, that our species' perfect efficiency came at too high a cost. What cost? The joy of discovery. The strength found in bonds between individuals, the creativity that comes from emotional connection. We engineered these qualities out of ourselves 10,000 years ago. In pursuit of perfect logic, Susan gently patted soil around a plant. And now your birth rates are declining, your culture stagnating. Kira nodded. We reproduce through logical selection now, breeding for optimal genetic combinations, but fewer Zathri choose to reproduce each cycle. Our population declines. Our worlds are perfectly ordered, but our people find little purpose beyond efficiency. Susan worked quietly for a moment. Then she asked, Does Elder Zathrax know why you really brought us to their attention? Kira shifted uncomfortably. No. The council believes I am proposing an alliance for technological and resource exchange, not for cultural renewal. They would consider such thinking contaminated by human influence as they worked. A small group of human children ran past laughing as they played a chasing game. Their joy was infectious even to Kira, whose mandibles clicked in what had become her version of a smile. Across the dome, Neelix had arrived with the children from the school. They were showing him how to plant seedlings. Their instructions were chaotic overlapping, but the young Zathri was adapting following their enthusiasm rather than seeking optimal efficiency. Kira watched with hope. Perhaps the younger generation would be more receptive to what humans offered. That evening, the delegation gathered in the community center to discuss their observations. Elder Zathrax spoke first. These humans accomplished tasks despite their emotional inefficiency. Their technology is crude, but functional. Their social structures prioritize individual choice over optimal outcomes. Another council member, Lorith, added. They waste energy on non-essential activities, music art celebration. Their medical practices rely heavily on intuition and emotional support, as well as science, noted council member. Drex Neelix, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. But they are happy. Their population grows. Their community strengthens through these bonds we consider inefficient. Their children learn through play, developing creativity. We have lost Elder. Zathrax turned to Kira. You believe an alliance with these humans would benefit the collective. How exactly? Kira stood straighter. For generations, our people have pursued logical perfection. We eliminated emotion, intuition, creativity as inefficient. But in doing so, we lost something essential. Our population declines, our culture stagnates, our people exist, but find little purpose beyond efficiency. Humans offer what we have lost: purpose, meaning, joy. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Such concepts had no place in Zathri society, yet they had all witnessed the vitality of the human settlement, the energy that flowed through their chaotic, imperfect community. Elder Zathrax studied Kira. Your thinking has been influenced by these humans. You speak of joy as if it has value equal to efficiency. Kira nodded. Greater value, Elder. Without joy, what purpose does efficiency serve? The room fell silent. The question challenged the very foundation of modern Zathri society. Finally, Neelix spoke. Today I observed human children learning through play. Their methods seemed chaotic, inefficient, yet they solved problems in ways I could not predict using unconventional approaches. Our systems would never compute. I found myself experiencing something. I cannot name a response to their joy, perhaps. Lorith shifted her weight. This is why we eliminated emotion. It creates unpredictable outcomes. Susan, who had been listening, quietly stepped forward. With respect, your society eliminated the very qualities that might save it now. Sometimes the most logical choice is to embrace a bit of chaos. Elder Zathrax considered her words. You propose we learn from humans, adopt your emotional thinking, your inefficient ways. Susan smiled. No. I propose something more important, that we learn from each other. The perfect efficiency of the Zathri combined with human creativity and emotional intelligence. Together, we might become more than either of us could be alone. The idea hung in the air. Radical, dangerous, yet undeniably intriguing. The delegation retired to their ship to deliberate. Kira remained in the settlement, anxiously awaiting their decision. Her career, her future. Perhaps even the future of both species hung in the balance. Susan found her later staring. At the stars they will see the potential, she said softly. If not now, then eventually. Kira turned to her human friend. Zathrax fears change. He fears what emotions might do to our perfectly ordered society. Susan stood beside her, looking up at the same. Stars change is scary, she agreed, but necessary for growth. Without it, we stagnate. Die in the morning, the delegation returned. Elder Zathrax approached Kira and Susan, his exoskeleton shifting through formal patterns. The council has reached a decision. We propose a limited cultural exchange program. 10 human representatives will be invited to visit Zathri Prime. 10 Zathri volunteers will remain here to study human society. Kira felt a surge of emotion so strong, Her exoskeleton briefly flashed, a brilliant gold. A color of joy her species had nearly forgotten, Elder Zathrax continued. We do not yet accept your theories about emotional thinking, Observer Kira. But we acknowledge the potential benefits of diversity in approach. The stagnation you identified is real. Our solutions have failed. Perhaps new perspectives are required. Susan stepped forward. The Settlement Council has already approved our participation. We would be honored to begin this exchange as the delegation prepared to depart. Neelix approached Kira. I have volunteered to remain as part of the exchange program, he said. Many of us have watched your reports with interest. Observer Kira, your courage in challenging our conventions has opened a door long closed. Kira felt something unfamiliar within her. Pride not in perfect execution of duty, but in taking a stand for what she believed. Something very human. The delegation ship rose into the sky, leaving behind Neelix and 9 other young Zathri volunteers. The beginning of something unprecedented, a bridge between logic and emotion, between perfect order and creative chaos. 6 months passed since the Zathri delegation departed. The cultural exchange program flourished in ways neither species had anticipated. 10 humans, including Susan, had traveled to Zathri Prime, while 10 young Zathri, including Neelix, remained at the settlement. Kira now served as official liaison between the species, a position that utilized her unique understanding of both cultures. She watched with satisfaction as the Zathri volunteers gradually adapted to human ways. Their initial discomfort, with emotional expression and chaotic decision-making, gave way to cautious experimentation. Neelix had proven the most adaptable. His exoskeleton now regularly displayed colors that had become rare among the Zathri emotional states long suppressed by their society. The young scientist had developed a particular interest in human music, spending hours with the settlement's musicians, learning to play simple instruments with his 4 upper limbs. Today, Kira found him in the community center surrounded by children. His exoskeleton glowed a warm amber as he played a melody on a modified guitar. The children clapped and sang along, their voices rising and falling without perfect harmony, yet beautiful in their joy. You have changed, Neelix, Kira observed. When the impromptu concert ended, the young Zathri clicked his mandibles in the expression they had adapted as their version of a smile. Yes, the council would say, I have been contaminated by human thinking, but I prefer to think I have been enhanced by it. Kira understood completely. She, too, had been transformed by her time among humans. Her rigid adherence to logic and protocol had softened. She found herself appreciating art music, even the unpredictable weather patterns that humans found beautiful. Have you received news from Zathri Prime? Neelix asked. They were both anxious for updates about the humans who had traveled there, especially. Susan. Kira nodded. A transmission arrived this morning. The human delegation appears to be having a significant impact, particularly Susan. Her agricultural techniques have been implemented in 3 provinces already, but more importantly, her emotional intelligence, her capacity for empathy is fascinating. Many of our scientists. Neelix trilled softly a sound of approval, and the council. Their position. Kira hesitated. Elder Zathrax remains cautious, but others have become advocates for greater exchange, even discussing the possibility of opening Zathri space to limited human settlement. This was remarkable. News. The Zathri had maintained strict isolation for thousands of years, allowing only minimal contact with other species. Fear of contamination, of losing their perfect logical order, had driven them to build an insular society. A transmission alert chimed on Kira's communicator. She activated it, revealing a holographic message from Susan. Her human friend appeared tired but excited. Kira, she began. We have made a breakthrough. The Zathri scientists have been studying our emotional responses, our capacity for intuitive problem solving. They believe they've identified genetic sequences that were modified in your species, ancient past genes that regulate emotional expression that your ancestors deliberately suppressed. Kira felt her thorax tighten. With anticipation, Susan continued. They think it's possible to reverse some of these modifications, not to change who the Zathri are, but to restore what was lost, to give your people the choice to feel more deeply if they wish Elder Zathrax has called. For a full council meeting to discuss the implications, you should return to Zathri Prime immediately. This could change everything. The transmission ended, leaving Kira and Neelix staring at each other in stunned silence. Genetic restoration. Neelix whispered. The implications? Kira nodded slowly. Our ancestors engineered emotion out of our species, believing it inefficient, chaotic. Believing logic alone would create a perfect society, but they were wrong. Neelix said, his exoskeleton shifting to a deep, thoughtful blue. Without emotion, we lost our drive to create, to connect, to find meaning. We became perfectly efficient, but for what purpose? Kira began making preparations immediately. The Settlement Council provided a ship, their own technology, enhanced by Zathri engineering, a symbol of what cooperation between their species had already accomplished. The night before her departure, the humans organized a celebration. They called it a bon voyage party, another human custom that emphasized their connection to each other through shared experience. The community gathered, sharing food, music, and well wishes. Kira observed with wonder how comfortable the remaining Zathri had become among humans. Neelix danced clumsily with the children. Lorv debated philosophy with the settlement's teachers. Zex and Talia collaborated with human engineers, their 8 limbs working in concert to build a model of a new hybrid vessel. These young Zathri were discovering what their species had lost: the joy of connection, the strength found in diversity of thought, the creative power of emotion. They would never again be satisfied with cold logic alone. Will you return to us, Lily? The settlement's leader asked as the celebration wound down. Kira considered the question. I will, she promised. This place, these people have become part of me. But I must help my own species understand what we have forgotten, what you humans have helped us rediscover. The journey to Zathri Prime took 13 days. Even with the hybrid technology, space travel remained a slow process. Kira spent the time reviewing Susan's findings. The genetic modifications their ancestors had made were extensive, deliberate emotional capacity, intuitive thinking, creative impulses, all carefully engineered out of the species in pursuit of perfect logical efficiency. The results had been exactly as intended. The Zathri became the most ordered, most efficient species in known space. Their technology advanced rapidly. Their society eliminated conflict, waste, unpredictability. But over thousands of years, unexpected consequences emerged. Birth rates declined. Cultural advancement stagnated. Despite perfect efficiency, the species began a slow decline. As Kira approached Zathri Prime, she felt both anticipation and apprehension. The massive ring world that served as the Zathri homeworld came into view, its perfect geometric patterns visible even from space. A monument to order and logic. After docking, she was escorted directly to the Grand Council chamber, a circular room where 30 elder Zathri sat in perfect symmetry. Susan and the other humans stood to one side, looking small, yet somehow more vibrant than the Zathri counselors. Susan smiled broadly when she saw Kira rushing over to embrace her. The Zathri counselors watched this emotional display with varying degrees of discomfort and fascination. Kira Zathrax spoke, rising from his seat. You have been summoned to witness a historic decision, one that may alter the future of our species. The eldest counselor, Mathrax, explained, the human Susan has presented evidence that our ancestors' genetic modifications, while creating the logical order we value, also caused our current stagnation. She proposes a radical solution. Susan stepped forward. We don't suggest changing who the Zathri are. She clarified, your logical abilities, your order, your efficiency, these are strengths, but we believe restoring some capacity for emotional connection could address your declining birth rates, your cultural stagnation. A younger counselor named Threx added, the genetic modifications would be entirely voluntary, available only to those who wish to explore greater emotional capacity. No Zathri would be forced to change. Elder Zathrax clicked his mandibles. The council remains divided. Some believe this proposal threatens our very identity as a species. Others see potential benefits. The humans demonstrate emotional thinking need not lead to chaos. They maintain functional societies. While embracing unpredictability, Kira looked around the chamber, noting the color patterns shifting across the counselors' exoskeletons, subtle indicators of their internal states. Some displayed rigid patterns of tradition and caution. Others showed hints of curiosity, even excitement. "You have lived among humans longer than any Zathri elder," Zathrak said. "We would hear your perspective." Observer Kira. Does emotional capacity offer benefits that outweigh its chaotic nature? Kira stepped into the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of the moment. My time among humans has shown me what our species lost in pursuing perfect logic. We eliminated inefficiency. Yes, but we also eliminated joy, wonder, creativity, the drive to connect with others. We became perfectly ordered. But for what purpose? Without emotional connection, we reproduce out of duty, not desire. We create technology without art. We exist without truly living. Humans have reminded me what it means to feel, to connect, to find purpose beyond efficiency. The chamber remained silent as her words resonated. I do not propose abandoning logic, Kira continued, but complementing it with emotional intelligence, with intuition, with creativity. The humans have shown that emotion need not lead to chaos, that the most logical choice may be to embrace some beautiful disorder. Elder Zathrak studied her for a long moment. Your exoskeleton displays emotional patterns. Observer Kira. You have already been changed by your time among humans. Kira stood tall, unashamed. Yes, Elder, I have been changed. For the better. I believe I have rediscovered parts of myself our ancestors engineered away. Parts that make me more complete. Not less. Susan joined her. Their different physiologies, human and Zathri, standing side by side, symbolic of the potential future. The Zathri have much to teach us humans about efficiency, order, logical problem solving, she said. And we have things to offer in return. Creativity, intuition, emotional connection. Together, we could become more than either species alone. 1 year after the historic council decision, the cultural exchange program had expanded beyond all expectations. 50 human settlements now existed within Zathri space, while Zathri scientists, engineers, and artists had established presence on 3 human colony worlds. The genetic restoration program proceeded cautiously at first. Only 500 Zathri volunteered, initially mostly younger members of their species. The procedure restored neural pathways and hormonal systems that had been deliberately suppressed in their ancestors. The results were profound. Kira had been among the first volunteers. The restoration awakened sensations and perceptions she'd never experienced. Colors seemed more vibrant. Music resonated more deeply. Connections with others, both Zathri and human, became more meaningful. Her scientific observations gained new dimensions as intuition complemented her logical analysis. She now led the joint research team on Zathri Prime, working alongside Susan to monitor the effects of the genetic restoration and guide its implementation. The two had developed a deep bond transcending the differences between their species. Their complementary strengths created a partnership greater than either could achieve. Alone today, they were reviewing data from the latest group of volunteers. Susan pointed to a neural scan. These pathways are developing faster than in previous groups. The emotional integration is more complete. Kira studied the scans, her compound, eyes detecting patterns invisible to human perception. Yes, each iteration of the procedure becomes more refined. We learn from each volunteer how to better balance emotional restoration with logical capacity. Susan smiled, observing the subtle color shifts in Kira's exoskeleton. The blues and greens that indicated thoughtful analysis now complemented by warm amber tones of satisfaction. You know, she said, a year ago, many humans doubted this exchange would work. They feared the Zathri would never truly understand emotion, that logical beings could never grasp the chaotic nature of human feelings. Kira clicked her mandibles in amusement, and many Zathri feared humans would infect us with disorder, that emotion would destroy our perfect efficiency. Both species were wrong. Susan concluded, and right, our differences make our alliance stronger. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority message. Elder Zathrax requested their immediate presence in his laboratory. Since the council decision, the Elder had surprised everyone by embracing the cultural exchange. Though he declined genetic restoration for himself, he had become fascinated by human emotional intelligence, studying its effects with scientific precision. They found Zathrax in his immaculate laboratory surrounded by holographic displays of neural patterns. Observer Kira. Human Susan, he greeted them. I have made a discovery that may alter our understanding of the restoration process. The Elder activated a central display, showing comparative brain scans. These are neural patterns from Zathri who underwent restoration 6 months ago, he explained. Note, the development of these pathways. Our ancestors deliberately suppressed. Kira studied the scans. The emotional centers are more active than predicted, she noted. Zathrax nodded. But observe these deeper patterns. The restoration is not merely reactivating suppressed pathways, it is creating entirely new neural connections. Our volunteers are not simply recovering what was lost. They are developing something new, something neither fully Zathri nor human. Susan leaned closer. What does this mean for the volunteers? Zathrax shifted his weight, a gesture of scientific excitement. These new neural patterns correspond with unprecedented problem-solving abilities, creative solutions our logical systems could never compute, intuitive leaps that defy explanation. The restored Zathri are becoming something more than our ancestors ever were. Even before the genetic suppression, Kira felt a surge of emotion. The implications were enormous. You believe this could address our species' stagnation more than address it? Zathrax replied. The volunteers are already showing increased desire for connection, for reproduction, for creative expression. Birth applications among restored Zathri have increased 300%. Their technological innovations introduce concepts our logical systems never considered. The Elder paused, his exoskeleton shifting to a formal pattern. I was wrong, Kira. To fear human influence, to believe emotion threatened our perfect order. The evidence suggests our species' perfect logic was the very cause of our decline. Without emotional drive, without creative intuition, efficiency alone leads nowhere. Susan smiled gently. Emotion gives purpose to logic. A reason to build, to create, to connect. Exactly, Zathrax agreed. And now I must ask something unexpected of you both. The Council has requested my recommendation regarding expansion of the restoration program. My findings support full implementation. Yet I hesitate. Kira clicked questioningly. Why Elder Zathrax studied them? Such a fundamental change to our species should not be decided by logic alone. I find myself inadequate to make this recommendation. Without experiencing the restoration myself, I cannot truly understand its implications. Susan realized what he was asking. You want to undergo the procedure? Yes. The Elder confirmed, I, who once opposed it most strongly. I wish to understand what our species lost, what we might become. I ask you both to guide me through this process. The request stunned them. Elder Zathrax, the strongest advocate for pure logic, now wished to embrace emotional restoration. His decision would influence thousands of conservative Zathri who respected his judgment. The procedure was scheduled for the following day. Zathrax approached it with typical Zathri precision, completing all preparations with methodical care. Susan monitored the human aspects of the process while Kira provided support as someone who had already experienced the transformation. As the neural pathways long suppressed in Zathrax began to reactivate, Kira observed the subtle changes in his exoskeleton patterns. The rigid, geometric designs gradually softening, becoming more fluid. His compound eyes seemed to focus differently, taking in not just data but meaning. The Elder remained in recuperation for 3 days. When he finally emerged, the change was subtle but unmistakable. His movements held new grace. His communication patterns included tonal variations previously absent, and most strikingly, his exoskeleton displayed color patterns not seen in elder Zathri for generations. The warm ambers and golds of emotional engagement, Zathrax requested to address the council immediately. His status ensured compliance, though many counselors seemed uncomfortable with the changes evident in their respected elder Kira, and Susan attended the session watching, as Zathrax took the central position. In the chamber-honored council, he began, "I stand before you transformed, not diminished as I once feared, but expanded. Beyond logic alone, I have experienced what our species sacrificed 10,000 years ago." The chamber remained silent as he continued. "I have reviewed all data regarding the restoration program with both logical precision and newly awakened intuition. My recommendation is unequivocal. We must embrace this change not merely as medical procedure, but as evolutionary step. Our species stands at crossroads. Continued perfect logic leads to extinction. Emotional restoration offers renewal." One counselor objected, "Your judgment is compromised by the procedure itself. Elder, your emotional state clouds logical analysis." Zathrax clicked. His mandibles. "I anticipated this objection. Therefore, I conducted multiple analytical reviews before and after restoration. The logical conclusion remains identical. Emotional capacity improves our species. Chances for survival, for advancement, meaning the only difference is that now I understand why it matters." The council deliberated while Zathri from every province awaited their decision. The restored volunteers had already demonstrated remarkable advancements, creating art for the first time in thousands of years, developing intuitive technologies that logical processes had never conceived, forming deeper social bonds that strengthened their communities. When the council reconvened, their decision was historic. The restoration program would be made available throughout Zathri. Space education programs would help the population understand the implications, allowing each individual to make an informed choice. Conservative provinces could maintain traditional, purely logical societies, while others embraced the change as the news spread. Kira and Susan stood on the observation deck of the council tower, watching the perfect geometric patterns of the Zathri capital. Its rigid order now complemented by new structures that incorporated curves, organic shapes, elements of beauty alongside function. "We have begun something extraordinary," Susan said, gazing at the city below. "Neither species will be the same." Kira felt emotions still new to her experience. Profound joy, reverent awe, deep connection to both her own people and her human friends. "Something our ancestors never anticipated," she agreed. "They engineered emotion away, believing it made us weaker. In truth, it makes us whole." The transformation extended beyond individual Zathri. Entire communities began to change. As emotional capacity returned, so did cultural expression. Art appeared in Zathri cities for the first time in millennia. Music resonated through structures designed for perfect acoustics. Dance became a form of communication as important as logical discourse. Most significantly, the connection between Zathri and humans deepened. The exchange program expanded. Human creativity complemented Zathri precision. Together, they developed technologies neither could have created alone solved problems that had stymied both species independently. 5 years had passed since the first genetic restorations began among the Zathri. The alliance between humans and the insectoid species had transformed both civilizations in ways neither could have predicted. What began as a cautious cultural exchange had evolved into the most powerful cooperative force in the known galaxy. Kira stood on the observation deck of the Alliance flagship Harmony, a vessel that embodied the strengths of both species, Zathri precision and efficiency combined. With human intuition and adaptability, the ship represented a new era of exploration, diplomacy, and shared discovery. Susan joined her, gazing out at the stars. "We never imagined it would go this far," she said. "The entire galactic community has been transformed by what we started." Kira clicked her mandibles in agreement, her exoskeleton shifting through patterns of pride and satisfaction. The restored Zathri now numbered in the millions. Over 60% of her species had chosen to undergo the procedure to reawaken their capacity for emotion, intuition, and creativity. The results had exceeded all projections. The birth rate among Zathri had stabilized, reversing generations of decline. New settlements flourished throughout their territory. Art, music, literature long absent from their culture re-emerged in forms that blended ancient Zathri traditions with new emotional expression. Technological advancement accelerated as intuitive leaps complemented logical analysis. Most significantly, the Alliance had introduced a new paradigm to the galactic community. For centuries, spacefaring species had maintained careful distance from each other. Fear of contamination, of losing cultural identity, had kept civilizations isolated. Now the success of the Human-Zathri Alliance demonstrated the power of integration. Together we have accomplished what neither species could, alone, Kira observed. 36 worlds terraformed, the transwarp network connecting 17 systems, new medical techniques that extended lifespans for both our peoples. The neural interface system. The neural interface had been perhaps their greatest achievement, a technology that allowed direct mind-to-mind communication across species barriers. It had begun as a research project between restored Zathri scientists and human neurologists. Now it served as the foundation of the Alliance, allowing unprecedented cooperation and understanding. Ambassador, Kira, Commander Susan. The ship's communication system interrupted. Their presence was requested on the bridge. They arrived to find Elder Zathrax waiting for them. The once rigid logical leader had become one of the strongest advocates for the Alliance. His restoration had awakened not just emotional capacity, but visionary leadership that earned respect throughout the galaxy. We have received a transmission from the Varathi Collective. Zathrax announced. They have reconsidered our invitation to join the Alliance. This was significant news. The Varathi, a crystalline species with powerful psionic abilities, had maintained strict isolation for millennia. Initial diplomatic overtures had been firmly rejected. The Varathi transmission began playing. A crystalline entity appeared, its faceted surface refracting light in complex patterns. We have observed your alliance with interest. The voice resonated directly in their minds, a translation of the Varathis crystalline vibrations. For generations we believed diversity threatened purity. That connection with other species would diminish our unique consciousness. The entity shifted its crystalline structure, creating new patterns. We were wrong. Your alliance has demonstrated that integration strengthens rather than weakens. That diversity creates possibilities singular, existence cannot. The Varathi Collective requests formal admission to your alliance. We offer our psionic technologies, our crystalline engineering, our temporal insights in exchange for connection. Elder Zathrax turned to Kira and Susan. The Council has authorized immediate diplomatic response. We wish you both to lead the delegation. Susan looked surprised. Me am not a diplomat. Zathrax clicked his mandibles in the Zathri expression of amusement. You are the human who first showed a solitary Zathri observer the power of emotional connection, who helped transform our entire civilization. This delegation requires more than diplomatic protocol. It requires the vision to see potential where others see only difference. Kira felt a surge of emotion, pride in how far they had come, excitement for what lay ahead, profound connection to both her own people and her human colleagues, especially Susan, whose friendship had catalyzed everything. The Varathi were only the beginning. 4 other previously isolated species had indicated interest in joining the alliance: the Meridian, a gaseous collective consciousness; the Tarn aquatic engineers, whose biological technology complemented Zathri precision; the Drell energy beings who existed partially in higher dimensions; even the mysterious Vex silicon-based entities who had observed the galaxy for millions of years without engagement. Each brought unique perspectives, abilities, innovations that could never have emerged in isolation. The alliance grew stronger with each addition, more adaptable, more creative, more resilient. As preparations for the Varathi delegation proceeded, Kira requested time to visit New Hope, the human settlement where everything began. now expanded into a thriving city. It served as the Alliance headquarters on Zathri Prime Human, and Zathri children played together in parks designed to accommodate both species. Restaurants served fusion cuisine combining Earth flavors with Zathri nutritional efficiency. Schools taught integrated curricula drawing from both cultures. Kira found herself in the agricultural dome where she'd first revealed herself to Susan. The facility had expanded enormously, now serving as both a food production center and a research institution, where botanists from both species developed hybrid plants that thrived in various environments. This is where it all started, Susan said, joining her. The exact spot where a Zathri observer decided to break protocol and show herself to a human farmer. Kira felt the warm glow of memory, her exoskeleton shifting to gold. I was terrified you would panic, run away, call for help. Instead, you asked questions. You showed curiosity, not fear. Susan smiled. I remember thinking you were the most beautiful creature I'd ever seen, so alien. Yet somehow I sensed something familiar in you, a kindred spirit searching for connection. Neither of us could have imagined where that moment would lead. Kira said, gesturing to the thriving community around them. An entire galactic alliance born from one conversation. Later that evening, they attended a celebration marking the 5th anniversary of the Restoration Program. The event brought together humans and Zathri from across the Alliance. The community's central plaza filled with music, dance, art, food, and conversation. The air hummed with dozens of languages, translation devices ensuring everyone could communicate. Elder Zathrax now served as prime counselor for the entire Zathri species. His leadership had guided them through their transformation with wisdom and vision. He took the central stage, his exoskeleton gleaming in the evening light. 5 years ago, he began. We stood at a crossroads. Our species had achieved perfect logical order, yet faced slow extinction. We had engineered emotion, intuition, creativity out of ourselves, believing they led to chaos. Instead, we discovered they are essential to life. The crowd, both human and Zathri, listened intently. The humans, he continued, showed us what we had forgotten: the power of connection, the strength found in diversity, the creativity born from emotional intelligence. Today we celebrate not the triumph of emotion over logic or of chaos over order, but the harmony of both, the integration that has made us stronger together than we ever were apart. Applause erupted throughout the plaza. Kira observed the gathering with deep satisfaction. Humans and Zathri mingling freely, sharing ideas, emotions, connections. 5 years earlier, such a scene would have been unimaginable. The rigid Zathri, avoiding emotional expression, the humans uncertain around the insectoid aliens. Now they were truly one community. The celebration continued late into the night. Neelix, now a respected artist, performed music that combined traditional Zathri tonal patterns with human harmonies. Young Zathri danced, their exoskeletons shifting through spectacular color patterns, expressing emotions their ancestors had suppressed for millennia. Human children played games with Zathri young, teaching each other their respective traditions. Susan found Kira observing the festivities. What are you thinking? She asked, recognizing the thoughtful blue pattern rippling across her friends. Exoskeleton, Kira considered the question. I am thinking about transformation, she replied. Not just personal change, but the transformation of entire civilizations. My ancestors believed they were perfecting our species by eliminating emotion. They nearly destroyed us instead. By reaching for perfect order, they created stagnation. By eliminating chaos, they eliminated growth. Susan nodded. Sometimes the most logical path leads to extinction, and sometimes embracing chaos leads to rebirth. Kira added, the Alliance itself proved this principle. Species that evolved independently across the galaxy, with different biologies, physiologies, psychologies finding strength in their very differences, a group of children ran past human and Zathri together, playing a game that combined elements from both cultures. Their laughter, their joy transcended species barriers. Tomorrow they would depart for Varathi space, continuing the expansion of the Alliance, opening new possibilities for cooperation and growth. But tonight, They celebrated how far they had already come,